Pharaoh's daughter took him away and brought him up as her own son. And Moses was learned, and listen to this, in all of the wisdom of the Egyptians, and was mighty in words and deeds. Now when he was 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel. And seeing one of them suffer wrong, he defended and avenged him who was oppressed and struck down the Egyptian. For he supposed that his brethren would have understood that God would deliver them by his hand, but they did not understand. And the next day he appeared to two of them as they were fighting and tried to reconcile them, saying, Men, you are brethren. Why do you wrong one another? But he who did his neighbor wrong pushed him away and saying, Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? Do you want to kill me as you killed the Egyptian yesterday? And then at this saying, Moses fled and became a dweller in the land of Midian, where he had 2 sons. And then over in the 11th chapter of the book of Hebrews, from Exodus chapter 2 to Acts chapter 7 to Hebrews chapter 11, the Hall of Fame of Faith. Listen to what it says in chapter 11 and verse 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw that he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's command. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with his people, with the people of God, than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he looked to the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. By faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he destroyed the firstborn should touch them. By faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, whereas the Egyptians attempting to do so were drowned. Now, what's this all about? You know, it is interesting that it's been said every choice does not necessarily lead to a crisis, but every crisis leads to a choice. Here's an example of a man by the name of Moses who runs into a major crisis in his life at the age of 40. Now, you know the story. He was rescued by Pharaoh's daughter, hidden for 3 months in the home, and then for the next 5 years, his own mother Jochebed, Amram, his father, raised him, and then they had to relinquish him to Pharaoh's daughter, where he was brought up in Pharaoh's court. Moses is an example of a man who teaches us a great deal about wisdom. It's interesting that in the Old Testament we know nothing about his infancy or his adulthood. You learn that in the book of Acts chapter 7. The writer there tells us. Now there are 3 things that we learn about Moses at the beginning. Number 1, he was a very educated man. He's not some country bumpkin out here, some knucklehead, some nutcase. The man was highly educated. He was highly intellectual. As a matter of fact, in Acts chapter 7, the Bible says that he was schooled in all of the ways. He was learned in all of the ways. Verse 22, learned in all of the wisdom of the Egyptians. Highly sophisticated society at that time. Not only was he educated, he was very articulate. Now that's the irony of it, because when God called Moses to lead the children out of Israel, what did he say? I stutter, I don't speak very well. Well, the fact of the matter is, the Bible says he was not only learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, he was mighty in words. He was very articulate. And then it says in verse 22 that he was also mighty in deeds. Not only was he educated and articulate, the man was mighty. That carries with it the meaning of a military campaign. Flavius Josephus was a Jewish historian. And this is what Josephus wrote about Moses. is that he was so handsome that when he was walking down the street, people would stop and stare at him. That the laborers would stop what they were doing just to try and go to get a glimpse of him. Now in Hebrews chapter 11, the Bible says that he was beautiful. Now that word beautiful carries with it more than just the meaning of physical attraction. That word beautiful there is a Greek word, astios. A-S-T-E-E-O-S, astios. It simply carries with it the meaning of something supernaturally, a supernatural mark of divine favor. The reason his parents defied Pharaoh's decree was because they saw something in Moses that was beautiful. Not just physically, but that he had a special destiny about his life. Now, I don't know how God dealt with them in that situation, but evidently God had said something to them. Perhaps Moses' mother, Jochebed, had set him down one day and told him, look, here's the story of Joseph. Look at the Old Testament. Here's the story of Joseph. Here's how Joseph